All right. So welcome this morning. So this morning we are going to be talking about examining support processes to stabilize hybrid project delivery. One of the things that I think is really a challenge for us right now is what type of methodology are we going to be using in and on the project. So many of you this past year, about really the past 2 years, have been talking about how you are being forced to have some type of hybrid type of methodology in order to get things done for your project. And so you're using traditional project for a part of it, or that's the way your organization possibly is set up. And then you find yourself then having to do Agile or Scrum or something extra over here kind of on the side in order to help your developers or help your product, to help develop the product or something like that. And so all of those pieces just really sometimes don't work that well together. And so you find yourself really struggling with, okay, so how am I going to do hybrid over here, or how am I going to do Agile over here with my developers, but yet I'm reporting to management from the aspect of reporting to management with traditional stuff, with traditional metrics. So I want to talk about that a little bit because that's been something that I've been working on and researching here for about the past year, and it'll be something I think that will be kind of good for you to hear. Let me kind of lay a foundation for this and say it like this. If you're going to do hybrid, there has to be communication between you and management about these very issues. And so we've got to talk about the elephant in the room. You're not going to just go from traditional and then do a little hybrid over here and everything's going to fit. It doesn't work that way. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be challenges with that and so forth. So you're going to find yourself having to talk to the project management office, to management about what metrics they have to have, what metrics they don't have to have. So let me walk you through some of the specific areas. And obviously, this is just kind of an overview for you. And I know I'm speaking to the choir, and you guys are doing tons of hybrid stuff. And so, this is not going to answer every question, but I want to just kind of give you some ideas of some things that I think might help you. So today, we're going to be talking about hybrid project management and implementing it, but we're really talking about implementing hybrid project management and having to either implement it in a traditional, and that's one of the most challenging places, or you might actually be having to implement it in an Agile type situation to where you've got Agile running, but yet what happens is that you find yourself having to do some of the traditional stuff. Project management, as you already know, is evolving like crazy with so many different things. And so the methodologies are all coming under scrutiny. All the frameworks from the Agile side are coming under scrutiny. And so you find yourself looking at all of these different possibilities. And so if we can ever get away from all my projects have to be traditional or all my projects have to be Agile, and we start looking at it that I've got tools out here in both camps that I can use and help me, that's going to help you in this hybrid mindset. So let's talk about, I give you a definition of hybrid. You already know this, I'm sure, but hybrid project management combines both traditional and Agile methods to create value for the customer and success for the project. So the reason why you're doing Agile in the first place is because you're wanting to be able to bring more value to the customer, maybe speed for the customer, and it could be driven because of the change that many of you are being forced with. Many of you have so many different changes and you're trying to hit that moving target out here. It gets to be a little bit of a challenge. And so hybrid might really be the methodology or the combination that fits it. So it can include a combination of methodologies, processes, tools, approaches. But here's the thing that's so difficult for all of us when we do hybrid is with traditional, you've got waterfall and you've got details and books about how to do waterfall. Agile lags behind a little bit because it's so much newer, but you have Agile and Scrum and Kanban, and you've got books out on that where you can understand those methodologies. Hybrid is much more loose than either one of those. And hybrid, a lot of the books that are out, if you've been checking it on Amazon, I've been sending books back because they're not telling you anything. They're talking about the same stuff that we already know. Hybrid is a challenge, and so that's the big thing they said in the book. And so I paid $60 for it and sent that sucker back, thinking, oh my gosh, I know it's a challenge. I was hoping you'd give me some ideas. I will tell you a resource though that has just come out so that you're aware of this. I just ordered it. I haven't even finished, I haven't even read it all yet. And so let me show you a resource. This is called Hybrid Project Management. Let me get it over here in the camera so you can see it. This is a brand new resource, and this is the real deal, okay? This is Hybrid Project Management, and it's being published by Wiley. It's a 2023 book. It has just come out, but listen, it's about $60, so you know it before you order this thing. But this is the best book I found so far, because all the other stuff is written maybe by a practitioner or by somebody who's trying to run a scam and make $60 a book and giving you 30 pages, okay? This is right around 300 pages, and this is the real deal. This is a professor that's done the research on it and has brought people in to interview and survey. And so I just picked this up last week, and I ordered it off of Amazon. So that's a great resource for you, and that's a bona fide resource for you that will give you some ideas. Okay, so with that said, about a text to recommend to you, understand that when we're talking about hybrid, we're trying to make the shift to be able to think differently too. Those of you who are in the waterfall world, like we all have been at some point, you're thinking steps, you're thinking control, you're thinking sign-offs, we're thinking, you know, the rigor of something that is going to require that level of control from start to finish. Nothing changes until they sign off on something. And so we live that world. Those of you on the Agile side, you're trying to create value. You're trying to create something fast and speedy. You're wanting your team to be able to make as many decisions. And so you're starting to evolve in that world. And that world's been around, and we know, since 2000, but we still see the challenges to where you're trying to do that inside an Agile type environment, okay? So one of the things that we thought about was, if we're doing hybrid, what does hybrid really look like? So let me give you a couple of ideas of some things as we do this. Let me go a little further with the definition. So hybrid also can run in a sequence or parallel, just like traditional or Agile. You know why? Because you're deciding how to run hybrid. One hybrid project might not look like the other hybrid project, and that's okay. That we don't have to have every one of them fitting this box, okay? Because you're doing hybrid for one project for a different reason sometimes than you're doing it for another. The blend of these hybrid methods is really under your control. And I know a lot of people are trying to put the same, you know, the same stop gaps on it that they do with traditional, but that's really not the flavor of hybrid. Hybrid is, we're doing it this way so that we can communicate with the stakeholder, or so they can attend all these meetings that they would not normally attend. Or we're doing it this way because this government agency still hasn't told us what the requirements are for this grant or for this regulation. And so we're trying to do as much as we can so we're ready as soon as they deliver that to us. So you have some different motivations for this, but hybrid projects can have some traditional, obviously, and they're going to have some Agile involved in each of these. Now, also hybrid projects are going to be less formal than traditional. So the idea that we're going to have all the formality over here probably is not going to happen in most cases, because you need your team to be fluid, talking, looking at ways to be more creative. However, it might not be as loose as Agile either, to where they have total control and they're calling all their shots. So you might have a project manager working with this group and this hybrid group, but yet a lot of it is Agile, but they're still reporting to a project manager. And so that pulls away from that Agile side, where they've got the freedom and they're co-located and all those type of things. You might not be co-located for the Agile. So hybrid does not desire bureaucracy and then times of waiting for someone to make a decision. So components of hybrid that you're really looking for is, what decisions can we make? What decisions do we have to run up line for management? And so those are legitimate discussions with management, because you're wanting the team to have as much authority as possible, like you would in Agile. But at the same time, if you've got the traditional components there, you're going to find yourself having to run some things up. But there is a fear, and let me just talk about the elephant in the room. There's a fear of hybrid. The fear is, as a project manager, if these teams are making decisions, what's going to happen to my job? And the fear of management a lot of times is, if these teams are making these decisions, who's accountable? And so you fight that fear back and forth all the way through hybrid in so many ways. Now, some team members begin calling hybrid projects, they call it a lot of different things, and you've heard it too, Agile and Agile fall and all this kind of stuff. And so we have all these different names. I get it. We are running the hybrid pieces. But the thing is that none of that's negative. None of that's a bad thing at all. Hybrid projects are not a negative thing to do. It's a positive thing to do, because you're allowing your people to be innovative, and you're allowing your people to be able to look at, what can we do that's going to be able to bring that level of, of control and authority to the team. And so that's the idea. So hybrid projects are not a negative thing to do. It's a positive thing to do, because you're allowing your people to be innovative, and you're allowing your people to be able to look at, what can we do that's going to be able to bring that level of that level of information and creativity there, at the same time have the structure that we feel we've got to have as an organization. So you're really trying to wear both hats with this. The other thing is hybrid project management focuses on using what makes sense. And this is, oh my goodness, this is so much where we're needing to be as a project manager. All of us have been in those projects where we think, just poke me in the eye. If I have to sign another piece of paper or get another sign off, and some of these were just silly things because what was happening with the process was so heavy and so overloaded, and you couldn't do anything without having 5 people sign off on it. So that kills some of your project and kills your time and your schedule because you're waiting all the time. At the same time, you might not be able to handle the looseness. Your people might not even have the expertise. Even if you wanted to shift it all to Agile, you got good people, but they might not be there yet. And so how can we blend those two? So we're looking at how we're going to be able to work these processes in. So let's make sure we're all on the same page here. And I'm sure we are. I know I see a lot of the names, and I know you guys are doing this stuff and have been doing it for a while, but just in case, let's make sure. So when understanding hybrids, so what are we talking about? So you've got plan driven or waterfall or traditional, whatever you want to call it, over on the left-hand side. This is command and control. We all know what it is. It's the PMBOK. The PMBOK 6 goes all the way through it. You're going to have a lot of control, and it's going to be really locked in on that side. Then you have Agile or Scrum or change-driven type of project management over on the right-hand side. That is, you're trying to make it as loose as possible so that the team is driving toward execution. The goal here is getting something out the door to that customer for value as fast as possible. And so you've got that. So we've got those two extremes, okay? So here in the middle, we're trying to come up with what is appropriate hybrid between these type of characteristics that's going to benefit the organization, benefit the project, benefit the customer, but it's not going to be so far out here that management is walking around not knowing what's happening with the project. So we've got to have that particular balance between those two. So here's some of the benefits that you really have by using hybrid. I think hybrid is going to grow even more in the next 3 years. And so those of you who are testing it right now, God bless you, because it's going to have a benefit for you to know you've got that as a tool for everything you're trying to do. So here's some of the benefits. First off, consistency. The project team understands how to implement the project, which processes to use and implement. Now, when we talk about which processes to use, that means that we're not so dogmatic on this thing that we got to do the same thing on every project. And I'm going to get into some of the processes here in just a moment. Standardization. What do we have to have that's standardized, and what do we have flexibility on? Those have to be talked about, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So promoting some standardization is going to have to be there. Management's got to know what's happening on the project. There might be some sign-offs that have to happen because of your type of projects or your management people, and that's okay. There's going to have to be those type of things. But the point is, how flexible is the flexibility that we can have? And then governance and control. Some organizations, it's so top down, so much governance and control, nobody can breathe without 3 signatures. And so that probably is going to be a very difficult situation to be in and still run hybrid. Some people will do that, but they'll do it through a vendor. So the vendor's really the one doing hybrid, but internally, everything is still command and control all the way down. I think you're going to probably see some of that soften with organizations because they're starting to realize with such a high amount of projects that are failing, they're starting to catch on. You know what? We've got to do something in project management a little different, something that makes sense, not something so radical and crazy, but we got to do something that makes a little bit more sense with what we're trying to do. And then the other side of that is going to be that knowledge management. Everything's exploding around knowledge management right now. Everything's exploding around artificial intelligence and how it can help us. And that's going to be one of our topics down the road here that we'll talk about, not today, but we'll talk about that not long down the road, about artificial intelligence and its influence to project management. And it all hinges on this knowledge management, the pot of data that these tools can go to help us be able to run our projects faster, more complete, give us a warning before some of these things happen. So, but the ultimate goal is for all project managers to know how to work on current projects and to be able to customize that plan. So customization is key. If we're doing hybrid, you are running customized project plans because your project plans are not going to necessarily fit Agile, but they won't necessarily fit traditional. The other side of this is going to be continuous learning. Your first few hybrid projects, if you've already done those, think back, they were clumsy. It didn't fit the mold. You probably had somebody griping about what was not being done and how clumsy it was. Sure, change is always clumsy. But that continuous learning, you learn how to have that flexibility in a very inflexible environment. And so that's the reason why this is so important for us to be willing and able to take a look at. So let's look real quickly here at the process of choosing hybrid project processes. So let's say a project comes in the pipeline and you're questioning whether or not this project's going to work well as a hybrid. And so we do this all the time. You're sitting across the table and you're kind of knocking it around that these areas would really fit hybrid with what you need. It doesn't really fit Agile. It doesn't really fit traditional. So the first piece is the project assessment. This could be done at the PMO level, and I think PMOs will find themselves having to assess a project into the pipeline. Is it going to be Agile? Is it going to be traditional? Or is it going to have to be hybrid for some reason? So that project assessment, and that means more so than just somebody demanding it's going to be traditional or demanding Agile or hybrid. It's looking to see the characteristics of the project, the characteristics of the customer, and the characteristics of the environment and the culture. What can we do with this? All right. So after we've done some of that discussion, you're looking at the framework evaluation. Do we have the framework, and can we structure this project with a framework that's going to support hybrid? And then what about the project requirements and the analysis, and then stakeholder collaboration? In other words, if we do hybrid, what does management have to know from us? What does the customer have to know? How much flexibility does the team have? How much control does management have? And what do we have to do? And so I'll refer to that in just a moment. So now you decide what the framework selection is. And so in a hybrid, you're saying, okay, we've got to it's got to come through the charter. It's got to come through the business case. It's got to come through the charter. A project manager has to be assigned. We need that structure. However, we want the team making decisions, but they can't make the decision all on their own. They can make recommendations. But the project manager still has control to say yes or no, but the team does have the right to make any kind of recommendation to the project manager they want. Now, that might not sound hybrid to you, but that's very much hybrid for some of your companies, because on the traditional side, some project managers are calling the shot like an autocratic supervisor. They're devising the work, giving everybody what to do, and then they go back and decide what they want to do next. The team is basically a worker bee group, not a decision-making group or not a recommendation group. So that might be the first step, or some of the first shifts that you have with hybrid. And then you've got continuous evaluation of this. All right, what are we using that's working? What are we using that's not working? How can we make it work? How can we change this to make it work better? So just some considerations for you here. So which sections of the waterfall need to remain, and which sections can we adjust? And that's a discussion with management, because management is going to feel comfortable with certain things, not comfortable with other things. The other piece of this, what unique requirement makes hybrid a better match? Is it the requirements are trickling out a little differently? Is it that the requirements are changing like crazy? I mean, every time we meet, we got a different requirement. We've all been there, haven't we? If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. You show up and the requirements have changed so much just from last week. You're thinking, man, I should have went to truck driving school. I mean, it was just one of those kind of things where you think, why am I in this field? So then the third side of this is going to be, will the stakeholders support the amount of engagement that we have over here to where your team's calling the shot, your team's making the decision? So you're having to physically talk through those. It's not typically in any organizational chart. It's not typically something that anybody even knows what steps we need to do. It's something that you're making brand new at that time. So the hybrid theories that you're looking at, a few of these would be organizational culture, individual and team authority. These are areas that you find yourself having to talk about. The project methodology, which parts of which methodology do we have to use and do we have flexibility on? And then worker location. It's on the Agile side, Agile's real big on trying to co-locate people. And we know that is such a challenge when you've got multiple projects, and especially even in hybrid, it's going to be a challenge. So that's one of the reasons why when we look at it from the aspect through the eyes of virtual team members and remote workers, this is going to be one of the better decisions, as we're doing it in a hybrid fashion. But all the people I'm talking to are right here talking to me virtually each and every meeting. So the percentage and types of project management, we know that we have traditional, but hybrid is going to be that blend in between agile and traditional. And so you're going to see more and more hybrid. Almost every one of you that's been in a conference with me have even mentioned that you're kind of working on a hybrid. It's not 100% hybrid because you still have some components of traditional, but that's really the better definition of it, is it's hybrid, because you're doing a little bit of agile and a little bit of scrum and a little bit of traditional in order to qualify for everything. So this graphic here, I think, will help you be able to catch the big picture here. Why are hybrid projects failing just like others? Well, one of the big reasons is we didn't take into account all these different areas that hybrid might touch that we have to talk about. Now, it doesn't mean you're doing all of these on every project. Don't make that mistake. But you are having to think through all of these, and you're talking about it with management to make sure that what you're wanting to do, they're okay with. So I've listed several of these, and I'm sure I've missed something. So you know, your situation might be a little different, but I wanted you to kind of see the totality of what some of the processes are that we're thinking through. So communication, authority for decisions. Are we more traditional? Or are we more agile? Creation of a schedule. How is that schedule? Is it loose and we run in it like sprints, or is it going to have to be traditional where we're running it through phases and releases and sign-offs? Both of those could be appropriate for hybrid. Creation of schedule, creation of the budget, who's controlling the budget, who's controlling the change orders, the contractor, or do we have contractors, or is it all internal? The team, change control, estimation, who came up with the estimates? Were they just thrown over the wall? I'm sure that doesn't happen at your organization, okay? But there could be somebody on the call that feels like all of your estimates have just been thrown over the wall. And so do we have the right to re-estimate things and to be able to make recommendations for changes, both on duration and on the budget? Planning, who's doing the planning of this? Are we inheriting all of our plans, or are we going to be able to do the planning ourselves? What methodology and how much methodology do we have to use? And then resource authority. How much authority do we have to make the decisions? Now, there might even be some other spin-offs from this listing, but you see what I'm talking about here. These are all the pieces that's going to make a difference on every type of methodology we use. So some of these you're ranking, some of these you're going to have to talk about, some you think it's not going to be a big deal. This project's not going to be of concern in this. So the processes for resource assignment, let's talk about it for a moment. So hybrid fosters improved coordination and collaboration among various resource managers and stakeholders. So by aligning local decision-making with overarching strategic goals, the process effectively synchronizes resource allocation efforts across the different units, thereby avoiding duplication and optimizing resource utilization. So how are we going to use our resources? And are we, what we're doing with our resources aligning with the program management goals, the portfolio management goals, and the strategic project goals that our company has for running their initiatives? That's going to make a difference there. When you're looking at resource alignment, you're looking at clear governance framework. And so the traditional obviously has the top-down kind of philosophy, and there's obviously somebody in charge, and there's obviously somebody held accountable. So that might work for you. Robust information systems to where we can communicate, and continuous evaluation and improvement. So we're always looking at, am I getting the communication across? Are we communicating the right material? Are we communicating the right data so people can make decisions? So resource assignment is going to make a difference. Let's go to our second one. The next one is going to be clear communication. As clear as we think we are, we will miscommunicate something. And especially in hybrid, because the rules are a little bit different than they are in traditional and agile. So hybrid projects combine in-person communication with remote work environments. And so that's the reason why a lot of people will do this. Some people think hybrid just means that everybody's remote. That's a hybrid work environment, and that's fine, but that's not necessarily a hybrid project. That's a hybrid, or your resources are all remote. And so what you're wanting to do is you'll probably combine some. For an example, you might have remote people, but everybody maybe has to be in the office one day a week or one day every 3 weeks or something. And if everybody's remote all the time, that's fine. But the point is that your project, how hybrid it's going to be, still these areas have to be talked about, even if your people are remote. The remote project manager, as you know, if you're watching Indeed, is exploding around the world right now. You will always see somebody almost every day, multiple companies looking for remote project managers who are going to run that project from anywhere in the world. And then, so communication has to facilitate that information flow and the right information, not just, oh, I'm sending out 14 emails today. That doesn't accomplish anything. Does it contain the right information and the right data? In communication, clear communication, you're looking at clear communication channels. So you're selecting appropriate communication tools. Do we have video for us to be able to do this? Can we get on instantly without being a hassle? Are we making our emails and our instant messengers clear? Are we using some checklists? Are we summarizing what the decisions should be so that people understand what those decisions are? As much as we try and we think we're clear, sometimes people miss different pieces of that email. So utilizing visual communication tools, cultivating a culture of openness and trust. And here's your openness and trust. Your people should be able to ask you about anything, even though you maybe have said it 5 times before, without feeling the fear of retribution from you or I. They ought to be able to ask us and have us summarize it again or re-talk to them about it again. Because once again, when we put virtual into it or we put remote into it, we have that little bit of disconnect where I don't see all your body language. I see your face, I see your hands, but I don't see all of your body language. And so I still might have a little bit of a disconnect on something you say. And we need to build that transparency that, you know what, we all misunderstand. And the trust is, let me explain it to you one more time. Here's what we're doing. And that person does not feel fearful. If they feel fearful, we all know what the outcome is going to be. They're not going to ask. And then that's going to be a bigger deal. So needs assessment, tailoring the approaches, all of these considerations for clear communication. Many of you, I've already chosen tools that are on the internet so that you have easier ways to communicate with your remote project teams and project managers. Great. If that works for you, that's going to be perfect. Let's look now at the process for authority. So we have different levels of authority. And so if you're in that real traditional formal organization, you might think, well, nobody needs authority except management. And that's the mindset you've been in. That's the mindset you've lived in. I will tell you, though, that you've got experts that are sitting around that project management table that have some ideas, and many of those ideas might even be a little better than yours, okay? So just consider that they might have some better ideas than you have, and we're not tapping into it. So you go from making all the decisions to making recommendations, to limited decision-making, to total authority. And so this is kind of the stair step of where people will evolve. Most of the time, this takes and requires that we've done this because we've moved up through the organization. But on the Agile side, you don't need the position power to be very influential because your voice is listened to and people want to know what you're thinking and hearing what you've got to say. You also have scheduled creation. What type of schedule are we going to run on the project? And so you're analyzing the scope of the project and the timeline. You're trying to determine how much flexibility do we really have to run this project. And you discuss with the management and also the team, obviously, but especially with management, the most realistic times with the team, who does the work. And so does the schedule look right to our team? Because we're the people who's actually doing the work, and we have the ability to make the recommendations back to management or to make those decisions ourselves. But we've got to look at the schedule. Is it realistic based on the resources that we have? So you might have a realistic schedule, but you need more resources. And most of you are running on a skeleton crew right now. And so what happens is this is the 5th or 6th project that's come down the pipeline for that same crew to work on. And that's where you start seeing our schedules start falling apart. So if we're doing a hybrid, what is realistic for us? What's going to be realistic for this? In that schedule creation, you're looking at implementation, gain buy-in from management on plurality estimation. What is that? Plurality estimation means that I can look at it and give you an estimate, our team can look at it and give you an estimate, and other people can look at these different pieces of it and are not fearful to say, I think it's going to take longer than the 10 hours that we have set aside for this because of the other projects, hoping that nothing else, even if nothing else goes into crisis mode, that 10 hours is not enough. And so people have to be able to not fear saying that. So they're able to compare current project estimates with that project and that piece of it with some flexibility. And so you're going to be looking at. All right, next, let's look at budget. So many of you inherit your budget. I get it. Okay. Management from a formal organization, maybe you inherit all your budgets. That's okay. But in hybrid, that has to be something that's determined. And maybe this is one of those where hands have to be off. Okay. Management's going to do budgeting and nobody else. That's fine. There's so much more in hybrid that you can do. But nevertheless, the hybrid budget creation process combines both centralized and decentralized decision making. And so, in other words, even though management has a budget, if we could ever even get to the point where management creates a budget for this and calls it a draft, and the team looks at it and gives feedback on the quote draft, then you're still bridging those two expertises together. That still has moved you more towards the hybrid way than the formal way. So this approach seeks to balance top-down allocation, like we're talking about, with bottom-up expertise who's doing the job. So a hybrid process involves critical components facilitating effective budget creation in a hybrid environment. And so that, once again, this is usually one of those main anchors that's difficult because people hold the purse strings on that money, and a lot of times they're not going to give that to anyone else, but yet we're wanting to do hybrid, which might require a piece of this. Maybe your hybrid doesn't require this. Good. But if you do, this is going to be one of those pieces. So implementation of budget creation, where you have clear guidelines on adjusting the budget, to whom to escalate the budget for questions for approval, if you are having to get approval when you go up on your budget, and then commitment from management and the team to monitor and forecast the expenditures. So we do need to know what we're spending. We do need to know how much all this is costing us, and we need to be able to know that. All of us need to be able to know those types of things on that project if budget is one of those constraints that we're really having to watch. Next, let's look at hiring a contractor or procurement. Always a challenge in some cases, because once again, procurement people are going to be, or the contractor people are going to be running the project based on the methodology that makes sense to them and makes sense for their proposal. However, the hybrid contractor or procurement process emphasizes collaboration and contract negotiation. We've picked that up from the Agile side, but that doesn't mean that the contractor is going to tell you everything and every number on their side. However, when we're talking about time and we're talking about the schedule and we're talking about effort and we're talking about projections or forecasts, that contractor does have an obligation to share all of that with you. None of that is proprietary information. Budget, if it's a fixed price budget, that contractor isn't going to want to share anything with you. Why? Because they're paying for it, and if they're making money from it, it's theirs and it's their business. So they're not going to want to share the money side. But the other things are going to be pretty wide open for you to find out. I'd like to know from my vendor not only how we're doing on time, but what are you projecting for the next 2 weeks? What do you project? What work do you think will be finished in the next 2 weeks? And so that way you're kind of getting a verbal commitment from them. That would be a little bit of a hybrid. This collaborative effort ensures that the contract terms and conditions reflect both centralized policies that have to be there and guidelines and the unique requirements of an individual department or individual teams. And so this is a little bit of a clumsy area. Many of you are already experiencing this because many of you are trying to do the Agile side. You've already seen that's really difficult to bring a vendor in under a fixed price contract because of that piece there. Now, let me just chase a rabbit here real quick. There's some new contracts that have come out in PMBOK 7 and are now part of the PMP certification test that you might want to view. If you go to PMI and look and see if you can find any of the articles or any of the information are in PMBOK 7, the new contracts that are for Agile. They gave probably, it seems like it's about 7 of them. And so these are brand new contracts that most people have not heard of before, and maybe that will give you a little bit of some solution, and maybe something that would work for you that are kind of have that Agile flair, at least for the contracting. So implementing the contractor or the procurement piece is going to be an important piece. So the contract type makes a difference on how hybrid is going to be implemented there. So if it's fixed price, it's a little bit of a constraint. That's why you're using it. If it's a time and materials, that might work in some situations, but usually that's a little too loose for people. Or is this a cost reimbursable type of contract to where we've got some flexibility there in the hybrid? So looking at contracts and trying to look and see what contract do you want to use based on what management feels comfortable with can make a huge difference. Let's look at the process for creating and managing teams. Who has the power over these resources? Big deal. If formal management has the control over these folks, then once again, find yourself having to go and beg for resources and having to talk to management to get them to do something and to get them assigned for that. And that might work for you. That might be the part of hybrid that you find yourself having to do. But hybrid teams do need flexibility. They need a lot of the flexibility or similar flexibility to Agile. You're wanting them to make decisions. You're wanting them to drive the project faster. The reason you're using Agile or hybrid is speed. You're wanting to get this project done as fast as possible. Speed cannot happen if we're always having to ask permission. Let me say it again. Speed cannot happen on Agile or hybrid if we're always having to ask permission. And so if that's one of the things that we really are wanting to have happen, we've got to be able to speed those decisions up or put somebody in that team that has decision-making power to be able to say yes and let your team rock and roll as fast as they can go, because you're going to have to break the back of that speed. So flexibility is one of the pieces that you're looking at here. The implementation of processes for creating and managing the team is management must be on board with the team environment. They can't be fighting the team environment for everything. They must realize this is an extension of their eyes, their ears, their hands, their productivity. This is an extension for them. So expertise and transparency should be magnified when making decisions to where people understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. And just, it might not be something somebody agrees with. Okay, we get it. But this is why we're going in that direction. And so discussing this is going to shift the culture a little bit, because you want your team making as many decisions as possible over time. Now, obviously, if they don't know anything, they're brand new, they can't make as many decisions. They don't know the culture. They don't know the work. But you have some people who are some excellent workers and team members. You have some people who are experts in their field. Why would I not want to at least hear what they've got to say? I mean, I at least let them talk to me. They might have an idea that we haven't even considered to be able to pull this off. Now, let's talk about change control. Since this is one of the hotbeds, what is the process for changes in hybrid? Is it going to be more traditional? Is it going to be more agile? Does the customer able to say yes or no to changes instantly, like in Agile, or do we have to go through a change control board like we do over in traditional? So do you have a change control board? Do you have the authority to make changes, or does the customer? What level of change can the project manager say yes or no to, or maybe none? Does the customer participate periodically in the meetings, the demos, the discussions? Would that help be able to speed things up? Would that help make the changes faster? See, you're just looking at trying to create a new culture customized to that one project for the hybrid, for that hybrid environment. The implementation of this change control process is something that you do have to talk through. Creating an approval process. What do we have to do to get a change, to get an approval for a change? What does management feel comfortable with, and what does our team feel comfortable with doing? Draw the process out if there needs to be a process, or people understand these are the 5 steps we're going to have to do for a change order. And here, let me give you one other thing that for you to think about. Is there a different process for one change compared to another? So let's say, I'm just going to throw a number out. Anything under $10,000, the team can make the decision. The project manager, if they're in agreement, they can make that decision and document it without going through change control. But anything $10,000 and above have to go through change control. So you might have stair steps on those changes in that hybrid project that management has blessed, but at the same time speed everything up. So just something for you to consider there. All right, let's go a little further on estimating. Estimating the project is a big deal. We talked about those estimates coming over the wall. So hybrid estimating offers flexibility. So if we have to have estimates done by an engineering group or some other group, normally those are going to be pretty good estimates. But if we're having estimates and we feel like the estimate is off for some reason, these discussions have to focus on not only the estimate for this work, but also you're looking at other work that your team's having to do. For an example, this estimate might be perfect if you're looking at this estimate through the eyes of one project, but it might not be perfect at all if you're looking at it through that they've got 5 other projects that they're working with. So that's the piece, the disconnect that we have sometimes with some of our estimates. When you're looking at implementing this, clear directions on whether the estimate is focused on estimating specific work packages like you do over on the traditional side, and then breaking the project down, or was a PERT used in order to come up with these estimates? Or was this an estimate where the product owner and the team team actually work together to come up with a sprint. If we're running it through sprints, are we running 4-week sprints and handing something off to the customer? And so how did we come up with the estimate? The team has to be estimating those components to have a 4-week sprint and to be able to complete those things as fast as possible. The next process to even consider is planning. How are we going to plan this project? So planning the project, traditional is going to have everything. You're supposed to know everything up front, deliver everything at the end. That's kind of the mindset. Agile, we're handing stuff off periodically at the end of each iteration. So what are we wanting to do for this project? What makes sense for our project here? So planning and hybrid could use either of those methodologies, or it might actually include a combination of those. So if we're looking at implementing the planning in a hybrid way, you're brainstorming with your team the proper planning steps of what you think makes sense. You're seeking input from management for the sign-offs. If there is having to be sign-offs, you're seeking input from the customer who's going to be there to see the demo and see the sprint review. You're creating a process and discussing the steps so that management and the team have no bottlenecks when they start going through this. The planning is there, and if management has to have a final sign-off, fine, that's not a problem. Have that meeting, have them sign off, and we're good to go. We're able to run that plan as long as we don't change anything from what we thought it's going to be. We can run that plan all the way through. And so you'll notice that we keep coming back to what's management comfortable with and what's your team comfortable with, because that's what it has to be. Some of you have such an awesome, high experienced team. Your team feels pretty comfortable with a lot of different things, and management will support them because they trust them. But if there's no trust in the environment, if your team is newer people, good people, but they're just not as mature in the industry or in project management yet, then it's going to be a little clumsy. Management maybe isn't there quite yet on them. So your first project or two might have a few hiccups in these areas. So next, process for adjusting the methodology. This is one of the bigger discussions that you're going to have, because your hybrid methodology is not going to be from the Agile pot or from the traditional pot, but it's coming from both. And so you're having to decide, what do we have to have from each of these methodologies to be able to run this project. So understanding that methodology is very fluid is going to be huge. And so you're going to need to talk about, without fear, the challenges of each methodology. And so management might recommend that they want it to have this. Okay, if we have that, though, it's going to slow it down here. And so we have to be able to flesh that out in those meetings. Implementing the process for adjusting the methodology. Remind everyone the reason for using hybrid. It's going to be for value or for speed or for economics, any of those type of things. And so talk about it. Continue to use the Agile Scrum for projects with high customer engagement and those which bring value by giving something to the customer through iterations. Use hybrid when the combination of both makes sense. And on those use traditional project management for those projects that require those solid controls. So nobody's saying switch 100% of your projects to hybrid. That would be insanity. So those traditional projects are going to still be part of your company and your organization. Some of your Agile projects are still going to be part of those because you need that level of flexibility. But some of you are going to need this hybrid approach just in order to accomplish some of these things. So processes for escalation and support. Escalation and support is a big deal, because when you have problems, where do I get help? Okay. So when to escalate a decision makes a difference based on the power structure and the comfortability between traditional and Agile. So we're going to have to be able to trust management. They're going to have to trust the team, but we also have to know that nobody's hiding anything from anyone. So if something's going wrong in the team feels comfortable being able to literally, at a moment's notice, walk down the hall to a particular person and say, let me give you a heads up on what's happening. We're working on this. We think we've got it under control, but I want to inform you, this is what's happening, so that in case you hear about it from something else or someone else, you understand that what's going on. Nobody in management wants to be surprised, and nobody on the team wants to be the butt of all the jokes because something's gone wrong. So that transparency has to be there on both sides. So when escalating is necessary, determine who we escalate it to, and who makes that decision, because there will be something probably, and especially in crisis, as we know, we all get in those crisis situations to where we got to escalate something. Even if I don't have to escalate for a decision, I still want to make sure that my counterpart over here that I'm connected to that I'm still transparent with here's what's going on, just give you a heads up. And every one of us that are project managers, we love that when a team member says, we've had a little hiccup, we think we've got it covered, but here's what happened and here's what we're doing, and just want to let you know. We feel comfortable with that because I know that if something's going wrong, you're going to approach me, you're going to come to me, you're going to tell me about it. So open discussions show that level of transparency rather than you ain't going to believe what happened now. Nobody wants that. And now something's already happened that has been catastrophic. We don't want that. If I know you're having a hiccup, then I can maybe put another person on if I need to, if I'm a project manager to help you, or somebody else just to kind of check in with you to see if they can give you any other recommendations before we're in that catastrophic mode. All right, next, let's look at the process for creating clear and open communication. So communication support requires giving proper information to the team. What information do they need? They need as much as we can possibly give them. So it has to be open and it has to be clear so that they understand not only what they're working on, but how this fits into all the way up to the strategic plan. This is the bigger deal, and PMI is even driving this on their PMP test to understand how my little project fits into the overall strategic plan of that organization and what I'm doing and what I'm driving in those particular areas. So the background of hybrid and project management would be the complexity of projects created the need to adjust the project methodology to something which is more flexible, and adjustments can be made for the project. So hybrid projects could include these areas. We've got to have more flexibility. We've got to have maybe more scalability. We've got to have integration of both frameworks. That is what brings it together for a hybrid project. The book on hybrid here, I like the way the author has presented pulling from both sides, because that makes the most sense on some of these projects that you're working on. You also have to create criteria for proper hybrid customization. So let me kind of walk you through just a couple of ideas on this, if you don't mind. So complexity of the project. How complex is this project? The more complex, the more it might benefit from hybrid. And so what you're looking at is I need the flavor of both of these methodologies on this project, just because it's so intricate with so many different things. Scope scalability. If the scope is unstable and expectations are that it will change, it could benefit from hybrid as well. Because if you're hitting that moving target, that's what we normally do with Agile. But if you're in that traditional mode with project management, you're in that traditional company, you can see how a hybrid, even a little bit of Agile into that traditional, might help you. And then deadline flexibility. Deadlines with flexibility can use an iterative approach and might benefit from hybrid, but almost all of us have that hard deadline. Even if the deadline's not real, we have a hard deadline, don't we? And so that deadline is June 15th. Did anybody calculate that? Well, no, but June 15th when it has to be done. Okay, did anybody do a work breakdown structure on it? No, but June 15th is when it has to be done. So we've all been there, okay? All right, let's go a little further. Scalability. So if the process should adjust, focusing on speed and faster delivery, the project might benefit from hybrid. So if our old traditional methods are great for a lot of these projects, if I'm building a building, traditional project management absolutely is the way to go. Why? It's strong, command, control. You're wanting to build exactly what those blueprints say, no doubt about it, okay? So I get it. But so many times, many of you are working on those projects that are cutting edge technology, cutting edge projects. Some of you are working on cancer treatment projects. Some of you that are calling in from Australia, it was fascinating to hear your cancer drugs that are using project management methodologies. So scalability, would any of these benefit from that hybrid approach to be able to do some of these things, maybe just a touch different? So goal or objective movability. The more movement in the goal or the objective, the greater the need for hybrid, because it's going to allow you flexibility. And some of these is what you're needing. Now, are there challenges? Of course there is. The first is technology. Technology relies heavily on high functioning technology. Technology must work and people must be able to use it. So if we're using remote people, and if we're using people who are working on this and they want instant access to you, that technology has to be able to work quick for them. And so it can't be something that their technology works half the time. And so you want technology for these folks to be able to communicate instantly with someone and to be able to get feedback instantly. So communication, the use of the tools, the emails, the video calls, texting, whatever you're using, you're wanting it to make sense for speed and clarity for your people. And so that's going to be a piece of it. What about collaboration? Your people need to have the ability to be able to talk to other team members without asking permission. Old style mindset, I ask my boss, who has to ask their boss, who has to ask their boss. You see that how clunky that becomes. I need to be able to pick up the phone or to get on a video call and call Tony, who's going to talk to Carol, and for us to be able to talk about this a little bit and just kind of bounce some things around and then come up with some different ideas. We've got to have some of that flexibility. Also, managing the time. Hybrid projects make adjustments throughout the project with different timelines and plans. Plans change, which means that they speed up and slow down a lot of times for different reasons. So they're speeding up because we're running it in iterations and we're handing stuff off to the customer. We're slowing it down because we're finding some bugs in this and the customer didn't like some things, so we're making some changes in some future iterations. So you're going to find yourself doing some of that. That happens in the real project anyway, but a lot of times we don't feel like we've got that flexibility to do that. Oversight. Traditional project management is one of the best for oversight, but oversight might need customization as well. You might not need oversight on everything that you do in traditional. So balancing oversight with hybrid is important because most team members are working on multiple projects. And so the things that really we need oversight on, absolutely, we want that level of oversight. But the things that are working, the things that are moving fast that don't need that level of oversight, we want the flexibility to get that, to scoot along in that project plan and move beyond that. Team synergy. All of this builds that team synergy because the team works together, the team can disagree agreeably together, and the team has the ability to be connected and to be able to bounce those ideas and not only estimates and not only risk, but to bounce ideas for solutions off of each other on and be able to put some of those things into play and maybe even be able to test some of these things in a concerted effort to see would this solution make more sense. So framework evaluated. So framework evaluated, you're looking at 5 questions here. What processes cannot be changed? So this is where you're starting. What forms or templates will management mandate? We got to do this, even though it doesn't make sense for what we're doing. We've got to do this for management to feel comfortable. That's okay. What sections are new and require some training or coaching? Hybrid might be bringing in some new stuff that we've never done before, so we're going to have to coach people a little bit or train them. Where will the major resistance surface? So are we going to have some resistance someplace? And then how much authority will management support? So how can the team make all the decisions? Can they make decisions up to a certain amount of work or a certain amount of money? Will the decisions be supported 100%? The team can make all their decisions on the team. All of that comes back to the type of project, type of culture in your organization, what kind of success and what kind of relationships we really have with management and the team. The more I trust you, the more I trust you to make those decisions. The other piece of this when you're looking is project requirements evaluated. So you look at what are the desired outcomes and constraints of the project. As we know, constraints can be a lot of things, and most people say money and time. Okay, money and time is it, but I got news for you. There's other constraints besides just money and time. And so that other constraint, if you're trying to hit a deadline out here that's moving, you've got another constraint out here because there's a lot of ambiguity in that project. Will the team be internal or a vendor? That's going to make a difference on the culture. That's going to make a difference on what power you have with that person. What are the documentation and reporting expectations? In traditional, we normally consistently have more documentation, but in Agile, you might not have as much documentation. So what's the blend of documentation that management feels like we need to have, but at the same time makes sense for that particular project? What is the level of flexibility, adaptability? What type of contract will be used if the vendor completes some or all of the project? So based on the type of contract, make a difference on how much engagement we're going to be able to have, what kind of changes we're going to have. If you're in a fixed price contract, you watch those change orders. We all do, because they charge you out the wazoo on those change orders, and rightly so, because they have committed themselves to a fixed price. So, but if you're in a cost reimbursable type of contract, you've got flexibility to make some of those adjustments. But of course, nobody wants a cost reimbursable or time and material contract because of that flexibility. So I get it, but that's one of the things. Now let's look at one other piece: stakeholder evaluated. Will the stakeholders participate in the needed level of engagement? And so you have that issue over on the traditional side a lot of times. That's why you have a stakeholder plan. But on Agile, your stakeholders normally have a seat at the table. So what is the right balance between having people seated at the table and the structure that you have from traditional? What's the biggest challenge in working with some of the stakeholders? Do the stakeholders have expertise to give quality feedback, or is it more of that they're just saying, yes, they like it, or no, they don't? Both are very appropriate and both will work. What are the expectations of those stakeholders, and how supportive are the stakeholders in using hybrid? And that's usually one of the first pieces for those of you who are doing hybrid, is getting management over the hump to where they feel comfortable trying to do some hybrid with it. Now, the thing is that you've got management who, once again, their job is to control and protect the organization. So these are not bad people who are struggling with you doing hybrid or Agile. These are good people, but they know that they're accountable to fit that box by the stakeholder or by the organization. And so they're trying their best to do what they've been hired to do. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to shift them a little bit in some of these discussions, which you do. So this brings you into triggers to watch. There's some things to watch in hybrid projects. So the first one and most common, communication breakdown. Communication becomes strained between the vendor, the customer, the team, some group. For an example, delays in giving updates or reports. This is always a red flag. And so if I'm supposed to get a report every Thursday or Friday from anybody and we're not getting it, why would we think things are going well? That automatically tells me something's not good. Okay, something's not good. Now, if they send the report in on Friday or they call me Thursday night and say, hey, here's what's going on, I get it. Stuff happens. But why would we think things are okay? If we are not meeting the deadline that we thought or the reporting deadline, then it's going to come right back to us. Quality is starting to slip. Lower quality can quickly deviate the project outcomes through rework, through additional testing, through additional time. And so once again, those are triggers. So why are we now starting to have quality problems when we didn't have quality problems before? So just some simple tracking that you want to put in. Obviously, you need tracking in hybrid. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Obviously, you need tracking in hybrid just like you do Agile or just like you do in traditional. But we can put overkill into hybrid. You want the right amount, but not too much. That's what you're shooting for. And so what the right amount is going to be a discussion between everyone. So look at the goal, the standard, the requirement, request updates, quantitative dashboards, reports. Also evaluate the data, compare projected to the actuals, and then discuss the gaps and the next steps. You always are wanting to discuss the gaps and next steps because that's your projection. That's the forecast. So regardless of whether you're using traditional, Agile, or hybrid, always talk about what they forecast they're going to be doing, because that's that verbal commitment, and it lets you see, are they even thinking beyond that next activity? And you're wanting them to do that. You're wanting them to think beyond that next activity. Now, a couple of resources that, in case this helps you a little bit and you want to go a little further, Kersner has a great book out on project management metrics, KPIs, and dashboards. And so if you've not seen this, this is a great tool because you're going to find yourself having to customize a tool for hybrid. And then also from the Pearson company, the author is Marr. He has what's called key performance indicators. And so you'll find yourself having to customize that. Both of these are excellent tools. Now, let me mention a couple of things to you real quick, and then we'll get you guys out of here real quick this morning, okay? All right, so August 28 and 29, we are doing a public course called The Secrets to Managing Virtual Projects and Remote Teams. And so this is going to be a 2-day. It's registered with PMI. You'll get PDUs for it. So this is going to be August 28 and 29. It's $299 a person. And so you can sign up on our website for this. And so this is a 2-day event. Anybody can come and be part of this. And so if you've not seen this or not signed up, this is a go. This class is a go. We already have a class of people who have already signed up, so there's no doubt about this thing making it. Second thing I want to mention to you is the last free PMP Mastermind group. Those of you who have people who are looking to get into getting their PMP, but they're not sure how to fill out the applications, they're not sure what all components are and trying to get the right mindset to pass the PMP. The PMP has gone through an enormous amount of change since 2021, and even last month they've made changes in their material. So they've changed their material like 3 or 4 times just since 2021. So my last free PMP Mastermind group is September 11 through 15. They come for free. It's about 5 hours in length for the whole week, so that it's asynchronous. They can tap in and tap out anytime they want. I do 2 free Zoom calls, but the big thing is that each of these folks have the ability to potentially win a scholarship to get their PMP through us for free. And so we have a drawing. Every one of these, we do a drawing, and one person will win a free scholarship to come to the boot camp and get their PMP. So if you have people who fit this, it's not going to cost anything. September 11 through 15 will be the last one for 2023. September webinar. Next month, we are going to be talking about creating stronger project charters for initiating projects. And so this is going to be a focus on project chartering. And of course, chartering has a wide range of templates and wide range of topics, but we're going to be talking about that in September for our webinar. And then virtual PMP boot camps. We are running a 97% first-time passing rate right now. And so October 10 through 13, this boot camp is filling up, but we still have room to be able to put someone in, but it's just around the corner. December 4 through 7 is going to be our last boot camp for 2023. And your people are going to be able to be in here. They'll get virtual material, but they'll also get a textbook from PMI as part of the course. 97% first-time passing rate. Your PMP exams, no longer do you have to calculate any of those calculations for earned value. So if that was a fear of yours, you need to get into the boot camps right now, because you do not have to calculate any of those kind of things any longer in your PMP test. And then we've got a November date that we have just placed on the calendar just this week. We have a new public course. It's going to be hybrid project management, blending traditional and agile approaches for project success. So it's this topic that we're talking about right here. I'm doing 2 days. We tested it out in DC, and it turned out to be really, really good. $299 a person, November 8 and 9. And so it's on the website for you to be able to sign up for. And so you'll be able to register for that without any problem. So let me get open here to where I can see you guys and talk to you just a second, and I'll get you out of here. So let me thank you first off for being here and being part of this. Let me open this where I can see you. There you go. Let me thank you first off for being here and being part of the webinar. And so I hope it was something of value to you. And so let me answer a couple of questions if I can. I know we've got a gazillion people on here. And so let me answer a couple of questions if I can from anybody. And so questions you might have. All right, well, let me stop it here and let you get back to work. So thank you so much for being here this month. I wish you well. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see everyone next month. All right, bye, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.